Thank you. My name is Joe Pelle, P-E-L-L-E. I'm the Sheriff of Boulder County. I'm here with Governor Polis, FEMA Administrator Criswell, Senator Bennett, Congressman Neguse, and Congressman Perlmutter and Crow. We gave our Congressional folks a tour and FEMA Administrator a tour of the damage today. It's amazing the speed at which FEMA is responding, the public assistance declarations that have already been granted, and starting us on our road towards recovery. First and most important, though, regarding lives and missing people. Yesterday we were at 3. We have accounted for one of those gentlemen, so we are currently at 2 missing persons. And we are in the process today of trying to locate and, if possible, recover those folks. Unfortunately, we have a lot of experience with FEMA and public assistance after the 2013 flood, and I want to thank FEMA for the speed and the state assistance in getting them here and getting them involved. We look forward to the collaborative process moving ahead of helping our residents in recovery, and we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to collaborate with the county and all the cities involved and make this as smooth as possible for our residents and citizens to recover. Please stay tuned. Again, at 2 o'clock, I'll be back for more specific information regarding closures, openings, evacuations, that kind of thing. The focus of this press meeting is about recovery and about federal efforts to assist us. With that, I'll introduce Governor Polis.
Thank you, Sheriff. I know you had long days and nights. This is really a crisis in fast motion. The way that this is quickly moved to destroy close to 1,000 homes and many more damaged, affecting many more thousands of people, some of whom whose homes are intact or returning home. Others are awaiting natural gas being turned on and being ready to return. I want to thank Sheriff Pelle, Colorado National Guard, and of course FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell. We had been working with Administrator Criswell closely on the COVID-19 pandemic. Most recently, we've had a good relationship around expanding our hospital capacity in Colorado and trying to think out of the box, and she's been a good ally in helping us do that in a lower cost way and a faster way. We are honored that within 48 hours we have her on the ground here in Colorado, bringing all the help that the Federal Emergency Administration can bring to bear. To the families who've lost everything they have, we are setting up everything that we can to help you get through what is likely to be one of, if not the most difficult periods of your lives. To those who are still waiting to get back to their intact homes, that will be as quickly as possible. Xcel is going house to house, reigniting natural gas. I know many of you were also worried about frozen pipes and other issues, but everybody is moving as fast as they can to get folks back in safely. I know this has been a very traumatic experience. I wanted to make sure that people know that there is somebody to talk to. You can call Colorado Crisis Services. They can connect you to a professional counselor at 844-493-8255 or just text TALK to 38255. You can also contact imattercolorado.org, Mental Health Partners of Boulder, 303-443-8500, National Disaster Helpline, and many others. And please take advantage of these services if you need somebody to talk to. We also want to make sure that those impacted by the Marshall fire are beginning their work on applying for their insurance. We've set up a Unified Assistance Center, meaning this is a place you can go that has the insurers, FEMA, SBA, nonprofit help relief agencies. It'll be open 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Every day this week. It actually opened today, but not every one of those entities is yet situated there. It's at 1755 South Boulder Road in Lafayette. And so that's really, in addition to, of course, you can deal with your insurance company on the phone or online. But for many folks to have that all in one place, you're going to want to make that a part of your day. If you've lost or had a lot of damage or lost your home, 1755 South Public Road, Lafayette, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. this week. They will have that information. Your insurance is your first line, and we're working with them to expedite the paperwork to make it as simple as possible to process your claim, both automobile for those who had automobiles totaled as well as homes. But we know that most people have suffered financial loss above and beyond what insurance may cover. There is some help from SBA for that. There are $200,000 loans for property damage that's above the amount that's insured. That's at a rate of 1.43% for 30 years, so folks should take advantage of that. There's also $40,000 in loans for folks who lost property in their home above and beyond what was insured. So again, these are loans, they have to be repaid, but they're on favorable terms. Families, after you figure out what insurance should pay out, should take advantage of those opportunities. If you're unsure how to contact your insurance agency or your company, you can visit www.iii.org, and you can search for insurance company claims filing telephone numbers. I know you likely lost all your insurance paperwork in your home, and so you might have to look at that. You can also get additional help at the site on South Public Road, 1755 South Public Road. For businesses that have been affected, there are also some loan packages that can assist. There's several categories. There's building owners. Your building was likely insured. Talk to your insurance company, but there's also small retail stores that were tenants of those. There might be help available through the SBA to help you get back on your feet. For people who worked at those locations who don't have jobs, right? So now we're talking about somebody who might have lived in Westminster, live in Aurora, live in Longmont. You commuted every day to a store or restaurant in Superior or Louisville that's now gone. There's emergency-related unemployment that you can now file for if you have no place of work to go to. The major employers in the area, like Target and others, are able to work with you to reassign you to another location, so you will have a job, and many of them are giving some comp time as well, and we deeply appreciate that. So this is I know this is a difficult time in your lives if you've lost everything or you don't even know what you've lost. But what's important is to reach out and see what we as a community can do to help. Stop by the 1755 South Public Road One-Stop Center if you need emergency assisted unemployment, if you need SBA help, and of course, work with your insurance company as quickly as possible. I know for many it seems like a surreal experience. Just a few days ago, you were celebrating Christmas at home and hanging your stockings, and now home and hearth have been destroyed, and it's a shock. And the reality, I know, just hasn't even set in for so many folks who lost everything, and for those who still aren't able to return to their homes. But I want the community to know you're not alone. The full force of the United States of America is here with the FEMA administrator, the county, the commissioners, the state, all working together. It's a long road ahead. We built back from other disasters like the 2013 flood, and we will build back stronger from this one because we are Colorado strong. With that, it's my honor to welcome back to Colorado the FEMA Administrator, Deanne Criswell, who we surveyed a number of the subdevelopments and scenes with this morning so she could see firsthand the absolute devastation in parts of Superior and Louisville. Administrator Criswell.
Thank you, Governor. On behalf of the President, first, our hearts and prayers go out to everybody who has been impacted by this tragic fire. And know that the nation has you in their thoughts and prayers as well at this time. As you know, we did just tour the area, and the pictures that I was seeing on the television before today just don't even come close to what you see when you go look at it in person and the amount of devastation. And I've spent most of my life here in Colorado, and so to come back home to this is shocking. I've raised my boys here. I started as a firefighter in Aurora and was an emergency manager in Aurora, Colorado. I've spent time here in Boulder. I know the emergency management community and all of the work that they have been doing to help the community. And really just also want to say thank you to the heroic efforts of the first responders that really did such amazing work during this fire to help get people out of harm's way, as well as helping to reduce some of the impact that this fire was starting to cause. As you heard, I did just finish touring the area with Governor Polis, and the Congressional delegation was with us. And again, to see this firsthand really lets us know just the amount of destruction that is here. Right now, for FEMA, we have about 100 personnel that are assigned to this disaster, and that number is going to continue to grow over the coming days and weeks. President Biden, he quickly approved a major disaster declaration. The governor called and made a verbal request that day on the 31st, that morning, and we had that approved later that evening. And this is now going to be able to provide some assistance to those individuals that have been impacted. Again, your insurance is your first line of defense, but we know that insurance may not cover all of the losses that you have. And so if you have not already, you can register for assistance right now. You can go to disasterassistance.gov, or you can call 1-800-621-FEMA, which is 1-800-621-3362. We will also have representatives at the Disaster Assistance Center. They will be there starting today. Can also take registrations in person. I know sometimes it's hard to navigate through the phone or on the website, and you just want to talk to somebody, and that's where an assistance center like this is going to be a really valuable resource to try to get all of your questions answered in one place. As you also heard, for business owners, the SBA does offer low-interest loans, but it also provides, and really important, the SBA, I know it says Small Business Administration, but they provide loans to individuals as well to help cover some of the uninsured costs. But most importantly, we know that housing is the critical need right now, as well as debris removal. And we're bringing our federal teams together to work side by side with the state, the county, and the city officials that have been impacted to develop what that housing strategy is going to be, both the immediate needs to put people into safe places, as well as what the long-term housing needs might be as we work together to rebuild these communities. I know that this is going to be a long road to recovery, but know that the federal family, we are going to be with you 100% all the way through this to help you as you go through this recovery process. Thank you.
Senator Michael Bennett.
Thanks, Governor. First of all, let me just say a profound thank you to Administrator Criswell for being here today. Welcome home. We're glad to have you here. But for you to be here before the weekend was even out over a New Year's weekend means the world to us. And what I want you to know, and what I want the President to know, is that what you will find is a model of collaboration from the state through the federal delegation and to the counties that are represented here. Unfortunately, that's the result of being through too many of these in the past. But I think we'll be able to work together to make sure that we recover as strong as we can, and we know we will. Colorado always does. We go through these situations. We come out stronger on the back end, and we'll do that again here. I want to say one word about our kids. We were talking about them this morning. Anybody who's a parent or a grandparent or a teacher during this time of COVID knows what a difficult time this has been for our kids. I know how hard it was for my kids to watch on television the destruction that was going on the other night on their television screens. And you think about the kids who have actually been dislocated now in the middle of a school year and in the middle of a pandemic. That's something none of us have been through for over 100 years. So what I would say to everybody is if you need help, ask for help. If your kids need help, ask for help. That's what this one-stop center is there for. There are mental health and behavioral health resources available. Please, if you need help, ask for help, and we'll be there to support you. That, I'll turn it over to my partner, Congressman Joe Neguse, who represents this area.
Well, thank you, Senator Bennett. First, let me just echo, I'll be brief, but what Senator Bennett said with respect to the collaboration here at the local, state, and federal level. We're grateful for the governor's leadership, the insurance commissioner, the Department of Public Safety, and Stan Hilke, and all that they are doing, but also the local officials here on the ground who have been working around the clock for for the better part of the last almost 4 days. That starts with Sheriff Pelly, but also the Boulder County Commissioners who are here with us today as well, Claire Levy and Matt Jones, the latter of whom literally signed the county declaration, emergency declaration, as he was fleeing his own home in Louisville on Thursday. And our mayors, both of whom are here, Mayor Clint Folsom from Superior and Mayor Ashley Stoltzman from Louisville, literally working around the clock the last several days, little sleep, and both of whom had no idea whether or not their own homes would ultimately still be standing after these terrible fires. We are grateful for their leadership and, of course, all the city officials, the public works folks who are out there right now in the community working as we begin the long road to recovery. To the administrator, as Senator said, welcome back to Colorado. We're grateful for you being here so quickly. The fact that you're here a mere 48 hours after this terrible and devastating fire clearly shows how much you care about our state, and that's also evidenced in your swift response to the Marshall Fire, the President's swift authorization of the Major Disaster Declaration, and the inclusion of individual assistance as part of that order, which we just can't thank you enough for. I would encourage everyone who's been impacted by the Marshall Fire to follow what the governor had recommended and the FEMA administrator, which is to come to the Disaster Assistance Center in Lafayette or to go to www.disasterassistance.gov. Those programs are up and running. You can apply today. We've already heard in our office from a number of residents who have begun applying for housing assistance, SBA assistance, and the crisis services that are so desperately needed given the trauma that so many of our neighbors and fellow citizens here in Boulder County, unincorporated Louisville and Superior have experienced. Finally, I will just say a thank you to the many Coloradans who have stepped up over the course of this last 4 days to help their neighbors in need. You know, doing the tour today with the administrator and the governor and my colleagues in the Congressional delegation, you could see the many divisions of law enforcement from different parts of our state, from Adams County and from Jefferson County, from Broomfield. Neighbors taking care of neighbors is the Colorado way. It's what we're known for, and I'm just so grateful, and I know that my constituents in Louisville and Superior are very grateful. As was said, it's going to be a long road to recovery, but I'm confident that we will recover together. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. And with that, I'll turn over to my colleagues in the delegation, Congressman Perlmutter and Congressman Crow.
Thanks, Joe, and just a couple things. I couldn't be more proud of the first responders, as you said, Administrator. Joe Pelly and Stan, your people, if you think about it, 2 people missing out of 35,000 people evacuated. Unbelievable. Just thank you for that effort. To the President, to the Governor, to the Commissioners, your prompt response, I think, is going to save a lot of trauma. But there is going to be, short-term, mid-term, and long-term angst and trouble that has to be dealt with over time. And we're providing centers to help people with that. Last thing I want to say is I came by on Friday morning, and I was at the corner of Marshall Road and Highway 93, where the state resources that had responded. There was a fire unit from Brush, a fire unit from Oak Creek, a fire unit from Vale, to be here to help all of us. And then I got to visit with some firefighters at Station 3 in Louisville who had been up all night, exhausted. But the efforts of these people cannot be understated in dealing with the power of this fire. When you go through there and you see the burned out husks of cars and trucks and steel lampposts bent over because of the heat, it's remarkable. More people weren't hurt, but we got a lot of work ahead of us, and we've got a heck of a team from the President on down to help people get through this tough time. And I'd like to turn it over to my friend Jason Crow.
Taking the driving visit this morning really just was shocking to see the scene. The photos, the videos that so many Coloradans have seen really do not do justice to the level of devastation in this community. Entire neighborhoods gone. Hundreds upon hundreds of homes wiped off the map. it's going to be a long road for this community, but what I am heartened by and what I'm proud of is standing with this team, this group of people who time and time again show their character and show their integrity, from Governor Polis to Michael Bennett to my dear friend Joe Neguse, who joined Congress with me just a few years ago and has had way too much experience dealing with crisis like this, but has shown time and time again his leadership and his ability to do so, and I'm grateful for that, as well as Sheriff Pelley, the county commissioners, the mayors. One thing is very clear. We have an amazing team in Colorado at every level of government who time and time again step up and show the character of this state. Ed Perlmutter and I are here because we know that if this had happened in our district, this team would be here too. That this is the Colorado way. When there's a crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. We stand in the breach together and we show our character and integrity as a state together. From South Metro Fire in my community that sent units and firefighters up to stand in the breach with their other firefighters. There are countless examples. And I do want to end by just thanking the first responders and firefighters. One thing on our visit this morning, we saw the fire line where it stopped. We saw where those firefighters made their stand and said the fire stops here. And to throw yourself in the middle of that devastation, in the middle of that firestorm, and to do so with such courage is just astonishing to me, and I will continue to take inspiration for that. So I will stand with this team and be willing to support you however I can in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
So, really have so many members of the federal delegation, the FEMA administrator, all here on the ground working together, really shows that strong Colorado spirit, how we are dedicated to helping prevent suffering and help people get back their lives. And nothing can be harder, losing everything you have, not just a house, but a home. And what comes next for you, for your family. There's a lot of soul searching and decisions that you'll be making along the way. But FEMA, the state of Colorado, Boulder County, we're here to help you and make sure that you know that you're not alone. Questions?
Governor, the other day you took an aerial tour of the damage, and then now you've seen damage on the ground. Can you talk about some of the things you saw today that perhaps surprised you compared to what you thought?
I think some of the most harrowing images are just completely burnt out vehicles, and there's some that are even stopped in the middle of the road. You can only imagine what happened. Maybe the person saw their vehicle catch fire, got out and ran, hopped in with somebody else. I'm sure you can track down some of those stories, but just to see completely burnt out shells of vehicles, of course, entire neighborhoods with foundations of homes. We got the aerial view yesterday. We're in those neighborhoods today. Obviously now all covered with snow is somewhat surreal, and even a few places where there's still smoldering debris and smoke and partially covered by snow. It's really an odd and disturbing juxtaposition.
At this point, do we have a damage estimate? Are we in the billions of dollars or what?
Again, you'll have to leave that to those who do assessments, but the number of homes has been released, the number of businesses have been released, both destroyed and damaged. When you get into the damaged, then there would be assessments on each one of them. Some of those might move over to the total category. Others might only need some superficial work to return to use.
I have a question for Administrator Criswell. Welcome back to Colorado, but I'm sure the return here is more bitter than sweet. Can you talk about some of the things concrete that your agency can do for the people who have lost their homes? Do I understand there's been some discussion of putting trailers where some of the lost homes have been?
So again, the first line for everybody is to go through their insurance company. What FEMA can do then is if there are uninsured damages that they have, then they can register for assistance and they may be eligible for some additional assistance. Our programs are not designed to make individuals whole. Our programs are designed to provide safe and sanitary place for people to be. And so the maximum amount for the repair side that an individual would be eligible for outside of insurance if it didn't cover it is $37,900. We do have other programs as we work to assess what the housing strategy is going to be. We've brought in our FEMA housing experts. We're working very closely with our state counterparts as well as the county officials to determine what the right housing strategy is going to be. RVs are one of the tools in our toolbox, but we need to determine what the right tools are going to be for these communities. Every individual is going to have a different and unique need, and so we really need to make sure that for the long-term strategy, we take the time to understand what those needs are, but work on the short-term strategy of giving everybody some temporary place to stay in the interim.
Governor Polis,
Yes.
you have thousands of people displaced now. We have a very tight housing
Yeah.
market in Colorado, very expensive housing market. How are these folks going to get into new homes?
Yeah, so we talked to the administrator about that. I think that's one of the perhaps unique attributes of this. There's clearly not this kind of rental housing inventory in the Boulder market. And so for some folks, they can resettle elsewhere. They'll rent in Aurora, in Denver, in Thornton. But for others, especially if they have young kids at school and they want to be near Superior Elementary or they have kids in high school, it's a question of how, over the short to medium term, because the rebuilding can take a year, perhaps more, because we have a shortage of supplies and labor, how can we find some more housing on site? So the mayor of Boulder was at our meeting. They offered to help with some of their housing stock. In addition, there's the potential for, if it goes that way, some on-site living that's temporary through RVs. But it's going to be challenging. There'll be some families that are able to live at some distance away for some period of time, but there's others that want that sense of normalcy for them and their kids. I think the commissioners get that, the state gets that, we express that to FEMA. So we're going to really try to be creative in finding ways that people who want to be close to Superior and Louisville are able to be as close as possible.
Thank you.
Governor, this is probably also a good question for Sheriff later on, but I guess just, we're talking about, still trying to cope with all of this, all the trauma and all of this that's happened. I think a big question for these people who lost everything is how and why. How important is it for you to work with them to figure out that investigation of how this all started and get those answers?
So the Sheriff's Department is involved with the active investigation. If there was any form of deliberate or accidental arson, I fully expect that any of those responsible will be held fully responsible under the law for the utter devastation that was caused. At this point, there is no information that's being made available about that.
Last question.
Governor, either for you or for Senator Bennett, residents have told us about how unusually dry it was this season.
Yeah.
And in all of the natural disasters we're seeing across the country, we're seeing the growing impact of climate change. Is there anything on the state or federal level that can be done to more proactively prevent wildfires like this?
So this was a horrific convergence of two things. We had an unseasonably dry and warm winter. We had no real snow, as residents know, perhaps a dusting here or there, but essentially you had all of the fuel, all of the grassland fuel that most times around Christmas and New Year's would be under 6 inches or a foot of snow. Not only not covered but dry, coupled with historic wind gusts of upwards of 105, 110 miles an hour, which is why this jumped over Highway 36 not once but twice, jumped into different subdivisions, really cut a deadly swath with the high winds. We know that with the climate, we face higher risk, not only in the urban wildland interface, and of course we had the 3 largest fires in the history of our state in 2020, but also right here in cities and suburbs. I think it speaks to the importance of fire prevention, mitigation. The state is investing in additional resources around that. But when you have 105 mile an hour winds, no matter what resources you have, you can't even fly aircraft. And it's hard to do firefighting activity when it can jump right over the firefighters as it did in this case. So it's a challenging issue across the American West, but it's one that I know that we can rise to and take consequential action to decrease risk going forward.
Governor, we're going to have Mayor Stoltzman and Mayor Folsom just to give a closing message to the folks in Louisville Superior.
I just want to thank everyone for all of their patience through this period, all the community members for being so supportive of one another, and to everyone really truly around the country, and especially in the Denver metro area, for all your support, from the water being brought in from Parker and from the corporations, for people, putting people up in their homes, housing neighbors and friends. Thank you very much. And to the first responders, thank you tremendously. People directly impacted, please do go to the recovery site in Lafayette, and that's on South Public Road, to clarify. And just thank you, everyone, very, very much for what you're doing. And hang in there. We're all going to get through this together.
Thanks, Mayor Stoltzman. As Mayor Stoltzman said, I want to also echo those thanks to all of the great partners at the county, state, and federal level. You know, we are both mayors of very small cities and towns, and driving around and seeing these burned out sites, you immediately identify with who lived there, and these were your friends, and they are your friends, and that was their homes that are now destroyed. And so it is heartbreaking for us to have to experience this, but we will get through this together, and appreciate the great support that you all are providing. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.